This is the second in a series of videos for the 8th grade sewing wheel. This is our potholder project where we're making a log cabin quilted potholder. In the first video, I showed you how to get your layers of your backing, your insulation, and your batting together and to mark a center dot. Now we're ready to begin assembling the pieces. And the cool part about this is a quilt as you go project. We're actually doing the attaching of the pieces and the quilting in one step. So I have my pieces that have been cut out and they're numbered for the order that you're to use them in. So I'm going to take my number 1. I think I'm safe now to take off the number. I'm going to place number 1, center it right, just eyeball it, center it over that dot. Okay. Now I'm going to take my piece number 2. I'm safe now to take the number off. And I'm going to, this one, number 1 is face up, but number 2 is face down. I'm going to lay that directly on top of piece 1, centering all edges. If I did a good job of cutting the pieces out for you, it should fit perfectly. Now I prepared my machine with, I'm using white thread, but I really could have used a light gray as well because there's a lot of gray in this. There's so many different colors in this. You really don't match the color of thread when you're quilting. You want to pick a neutral color that will just kind of combine with them all. And sometimes the grays are better than white, but I just happen to have white on this machine. I like to always keep on hand for quilting a light gray, a medium gray, and a dark gray. So with my machine threaded, and I now have a quilting foot. There's a little blade here that I'm going to run my fabric against. This is going to create a guide for a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So the seams when quilting are to be 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go to the machine and I am going to just sew across the top of my 2 pieces here. I may want to use 1 pin to hold them in place while I sew. Normally you don't pin when quilting, but I think on this project, since you're beginners, it might help to go ahead and place 1 pin to hold your pieces together. My foot's up. I have to be careful with that blade that I'm not catching it on my fabric. Okay, I'm going to slide this underneath my needle. Underneath my foot. I just kind of lifted that up, got it under there. The edge of my fabric is right on that little blade or edge of my foot. I'm going to start with my needle right on the edge, put my needle in the fabric, lower my presser foot. I do not need to back stitch or sew. Or tie knots. Sorry, my foot pedal is sneaking off. Okay, time to sew. 1/4 inch. All the way across the top. Clipping my threads as I go. Just always a good practice. Here's what my stitch looks like across the fourth. Here's what I've stitched through all layers, so I'm going to see it quilted on the back. I'm going to take my pin out, fold up number 2 from number 1, and give it a good finger press, getting that completely up. Then I will go to the iron and press that up. So let's pretend I have returned from the iron. I've pressed. Remember, pressing is placing your iron down. It's not going back and forth like this. We don't want to stretch it, anything. So I'm ready for piece number 3. And if you look at your diagram, piece number 3 will lay over on this side. But that's not how I attach it. After removing the 3, I lay it face down, matching as best I can every side. And now I am going to stitch down the left-hand side. So I'll want to turn it this way and stitch down this side of my fabric. It doesn't look like I'm perfectly square on my backing fabrics, but that's okay. We're going to trim off the excess when we're done. So just as I did before, help get that going underneath my foot. Oops, it wants to stick. It's a lot of thicknesses. Okay, it's underneath my foot. My blade, my 1/4 inch marker is right against the edges of my fabric. Begin with my needle in the fabric. Again, I don't have to back stitch or tie a knot. And I begin sewing. I keep my eye not on the needle, but I keep my eye on the side of my fabric and that little blade. I'm also trying to help my fabric through because this is a lot of thicknesses. So I might gently tug on the other end. Okay, I'm to the side. Now you see that seam. Okay. Again, I'm going to cut my threads. Let's get rid of them now. Go to the iron, pretend I'm at the iron. I want to finger press it first, and then go to the iron and press that in place. I am now ready for piece number 4. Here's my number 4. And you'll notice that wherever you place it, you have to follow your picture though, don't guess, because you'll get something in the wrong place and that'll throw off the pattern. But number 4, according to our picture, goes right here. And I notice that this is the same width. This, my number 4 strip, and the block that I've created on this block. So I lay that down. If I want to, I can put a pin in there. And again, I need to sew down the long side here. Get it underneath my foot. Needle down, foot down, and sew this seam. I'm keeping my eye on the guide, and I'm not watching the needle. Watch the needle, I'll go crooked. I have to keep my eye on what's going to make it a straight line. My seams have to be even. Okay. Again, I need to cut my threads. My back is beginning to look quilted. We call this quilting, these little bumps, and every quilt has this stitching on the back. Usually it's done later. This is just a quilt as you go pattern. Okay, I want to fold that up. Finger press. Now, it's not perfectly even. All of a sudden, my pieces aren't perfectly even. Not a problem. It's just important to know that when I match the next piece, that I want to always match with the shortest edge. So I'm on 5, piece number 5. Here's my piece number 5. I am going to see how close I can get this to the camera. I don't want to match to the green. If I match to the green and sew and fold this over, I'm not going to catch most of this number 5 piece. But if I match to the edge of the shortest edges, by that I mean they're the lower edges, the gray and the apricot color or peach color, I'll have a little green showing here, but that's fine. I want to sew this for you so you see how this goes. I'm going to put a pin in there to catch all my layers. And now I'm going to go to the machine and sew this seam right here. But I'm going to follow the edge of my last layer. When I get to this green that's hanging over the edge there, I'm not going to follow that green. I'm going to follow that white. I know this is a bit, oops, excuse me. I know this is a bit confusing, but it does work. Okay, oh no. My foot was falling off my machine. Okay. Again, I've found the edge. Help my foot over there. I've got it matched on the gray and the peach. I've got a little bit of green sticking over. It's going to be fine. Needle in the fabric. My machine started sewing in one place. What had happened is that this blade had got caught in the batting. So once in a while when you find it doing that, you have to lift it up and free it again so it can continue sewing. Okay, now I'm going over the edge of that green. I'm just going to get it underneath my foot and keep going here. Now look how forgiving that is. It wasn't straight before, but now it's straight. This all looks great. So again, you're always going to match to the shortest edge as you assemble this. I'm going to go press this at the iron, and I will be back to show you the application of the rest of the pieces.